Okay, we're live. Thanks for joining us. This is an artist spotlight with Monika Lawrence, and she is the creator of the exhibit Heritage Through Image that we have up at the Carnegie Library in Thief River Falls right now. I'm Kristen Egerling. I'm the promotion specialist with Arts Council. Thanks for joining us. Trey, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, and I'm Trey Everett. I'm the showcase specialist. I work with our various galleries in our region, and one of the galleries, it's a new gallery, and it's in Thief River Falls, and it's at the Carnegie, which is the location of the Chamber of Commerce now, and it's in downtown Thief River Falls. And so we have our first exhibit in the Carnegie, and the artist is with us now, Monika Lawrence, and she is coming to us live from Germany, so that's kind of exciting. But Monika, why don't we just start out and you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so thanks again for inviting me to this artist talk. Yeah, I used to live in Bemidji for about 16 years. So I met my later husband 2004 in Dubrovnik in Croatia during a social work conference, which was kind of at that time my background. And I was wondering what's a geographer doing there. So because he was teaching geography at BSU. And about 2 years, in 2007, about 3 years later, I moved to Bemidji and we got married. And I started to teach photography at BSU. I think it was in 2009 or 10. And later also photojournalism. I also freelanced for NPR News, which I really loved. I miss that a lot. Also the people I've been working with back then. And these assignments back then, they actually brought me so much contact to really interesting people in Minnesota. I think through these assignments, I learned a lot about Minnesota. And then we decided kind of during the pandemic, I think we made that decision to inching closer to retirement. My husband was inching closer to retirement. Then we made a decision to move to Germany. He's been here in Germany a lot before, so he knows the town where we live now. It's called Erfurt. It's in beautiful Thuringia. It's also called the Green Heart of Germany. Well, It is really a beautiful medieval town. City, I should say, actually, about 200,000 people. And so I think we're still arriving. It's an adjustment to, even if it's my home country, but things have changed a lot in the meantime. I have changed a lot in the meantime. And so we are taking this now as kind of a joint adventure to set our feet and our roots again here in that city. Yeah. So maybe in a nutshell about me.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about your exhibit. As Kristen said, Heritage Through Image, and it's 22 photography pieces. And just tell us a little bit about what the exhibit is.
Yeah, so the exhibit, maybe I talk a little bit about how it all happened, where it came from, and the idea. So it was Steph Anderson from the East Polk Historical Society. Sometimes I have to remember all the names and all that. And she contacted me in, I think it was May 23. I just had finished, I think a year before, I just had finished a project of portraying artists or creative people in Clearwater County. And I think she had seen the exhibition that was created there. And she contacted me and asked me if I can do something like that with people from that are kind of connected to the Historical Society, East Polk County. And I love doing portraits because it typically is connected, for me, it's connected with talking a lot with people, getting to know other people, learning about their stories, their background, learning about Minnesota, things like that. And so I was all in. The only problem I had that we already had scheduled our move to Germany, and so it got really a little bit tight regarding the time, but it worked out. So Steph Anderson suggested a list of people to me, and she had contacted them if they would be okay with that somebody would invade their home with cameras and lights and all that and take photos of them in what they are doing. So there were lots of different crafts like rosemaling or tina box or restoring tractors or old forts or historians, educators, so very different backgrounds, which was fantastic and really interesting for me. Yeah, and so I contacted all these people and tried to make appointments. And sometimes it was 2 appointments a day because I had to rush the project a little bit, get it done in time. And it worked out. I wish I had more time with those people because really it was kind of meeting them, having a little bit of a chat, and then getting the cameras out, putting some lights up depending on the situation, which can be intimidating. I mean, just the big camera is, I'm glad I'm behind the camera, but so it was a very, very I loved the assignment because people were so kind and so open to me and just let me into their living rooms and their studios and backyards. And and I learned a lot about what they do from, making a Danish cake to, what was it, krumkake? I hadn't even known the word before, so this was all learning for me, which is part of the joy for me. And then, and then I had to do the edit, of course, which is the toughest part for me, to throw out a lot of photos, even if I like them, but there was a certain idea, and the idea was to represent also what the Historical Society is about and the traditions that they keep up and want to hand down also to next generations. And then I offered a kind of a tighter edit, about I think 10 or 15 photos to Steph, and she and Bonnie, I think was her name. They made the really hard decision of selecting 2 or 3 photos per person or per couple. There was one couple there, and I then had to print them before the printer was picked up by the movers. And then I brought them back to, handed them over to Steph, I think, or somebody else. Not quite sure anymore to whom I handed them over, because it was all so much going on between house sale and garage sale, and it worked out. And and then I heard there were was an exhibition, and I've never seen the photos on the wall, but I'm very happy to hear that there are exhibitions with those photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see any similarities or differences between the people you portrayed in Clearwater County, and it's a similar exhibit for what you did in
I
Clearwater?
think so, because I think it's the same, kind of a similar way how I photograph people. So I typically do environmental portraits, so showing people in their environment, whether that's their home, their studio, the garage, wherever they are doing what they do. And then so far, yes, it was similar. And I didn't have the time actually also to come up with a total different approach. And it was actually okay because they, each live and work in different places. The only challenge was with the two who I photographed at the Historical Society building, because I had to find different places in this really beautiful building. So just not to be too repetitive. So, but I think it worked out too. Yeah.
Were there hobbies or the things you were portraying, were they similar? Were they doing similar things or?
Well, there was a little bit of difference in that that Clearwater County was exclusively about creative people. Well, I mean, the people that I photographed for that project for the Historical Society, of course, they are also creative people. I mean, even if you restore old tractors, you have to be creative to get all the parts and maybe create tools to repair something or whatever. And in Clearwater County, it was, for instance, a sculptor, it was rosemalers, it was painters, photographers, basket weavers. So really people who do arts that was about the art community of Clearwater County. Yeah, the arts collective. I think they call each other or call themselves. Yeah.
Sure.
How do you tell us about a photo shoot? What is that like? How do you prepare yourself? How do you help the person you're photographing? How do you help them relax? Just kind of tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more difficult if I don't have enough time and meet the people the first time, but this is also a little bit how I worked when I did journalistic assignments, because then you meet people at the spot and get to know and with them in the moment. If possible, I do a little bit of research, online research, whether about the subject or the person itself or her or himself. That's not always possible, but for instance, I didn't really have an idea what rosemaling is when I started that first project, so I had to learn a lot about that, and it was fascinating. All the Scandinavian heritage actually in Minnesota. Tina boxes, I also had no idea what that is. So, but fascinating, yeah. And typically I start with conversations, even if we have only an hour or so. I'm not starting with the camera right away. That maybe in a pure journalistic context, if necessary. But even there, if possible, then I would have a short conversation kind of to set the person kind of, or relax the person, make the person more comfortable, and myself too, because I'm always nervous when I meet people that I don't know. And I'm nervous about the camera and getting everything, the settings. And I already start scanning the place where I am when I arrive and have conversations and try to figure out where's the light coming from, where I'm maybe putting lights if necessary, or where can I maybe place the person, things like that. So that's what you automatically do as a photographer. So you scan all the time, and that's very exhausting, actually. Also maintaining conversations and things like that. It's probably the same for you with me right now. So, but yeah, it's but it's at some point forget about it, and then it gets in a kind of workflow, work/conversation. Yeah. And then I always, very, very often, I have the feeling I want to meet these people again. So, and with the people in Clearwater County, I was able to, and I'm was in contact with them, visited them, some of them again, and feel still really, really connected, even if I'm not really good in keeping the connections, but I feel very, very connected with them, because my life here was taking over so fast that I'm a little bit behind with my contacts there in the Bemidji area. So, yeah.
How did you come to photography? How did you learn it, and how did you discover it?
I cannot really say that there was a certain photo or a certain exhibition or something. I think it gradually developed, and then in the mid 90s. So it was already. So I grew up in East Germany. So after the wall came down, there were all these opportunities suddenly, and I thought I was thinking about what to do with my life, and I thought I can grow into learning photography, and could take my time with that. And I started with getting a Canon, but it was still film back then. And I took a course at the kind of an evening class, didn't got out a lot of that, if at all. And then I later on took a few so-called weekend seminars at a photo school in Berlin, which was really fantastic. And there I actually got inspired by some photos of a photographer who I consider as one of my kind of, inspirations, examples. And she became then also my instructor, my kind of teacher there. And it was once a month, so it was not a regular kind of, I don't have a degree in photography, so it's really, I'm a self-taught photographer, which has its pro and cons. I always told my students at BSU that, fantastic that they took a class. Is much smarter because you learn things so much faster, because it's more compact. It's all prepared, not prepared, but kind of instructed. And I think my process was very slow, understanding all the technical stuff and things like that. But over time, I got a lot out of these seminars, for instance. So it was not so much about technical things, but about seeing and about ideas and about critiquing. We talked sometimes 8 hours about our photos, and at the end of the day, I didn't knew my name anymore, but it was really intensive. I took a lot from that. Also later for teaching, when I, had to kind of instruct students into giving critiques to each other. So without critiquing, criticism. So they understand the difference between critiquing and criticism. So that was really good. And through teaching, I mean, at some point I had to do that change from film to digital. I was hesitant, I admit that, because digital cameras at the beginning were really not good. So I was sitting it out until the cameras got better. And then through teaching, I learned a lot about photography through teaching.
Mhm.
So, and that's for me part of the love I have for teaching. I keep learning myself, or kept learning. I'm not teaching now, but I miss that too. But not the grading. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I don't know if that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about inspiration? Where do you find inspiration? Do you through other people, or is it a certain process for you? Or, how do you become inspired?
It's both. It's through other people. Sometimes they just say something or show me something, and I have an idea. It's not so much through their work, because I get inspired by other people's work, certainly, but I don't want to repeat what other people do. So that's also for me the creative part, of course, to find your own voice, your own images. And sometimes it's that I read about a topic that gets me interested. For instance, environmental topics. It's very different. What sometimes it just gets me, something I see, I hear about, or a topic grows over time. That's also sometimes it's like a long birth somehow. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any projects you're working on now?
Yeah, actually several. I'm still working on all the material that I actually brought from Minnesota with me. My hope is that I can create two books. One, I did a series about, well, actually maybe three, I don't know. I have so much material that of photos that I took over time in Minnesota. I did a series about winters in Minnesota. I fell in love. First, I was afraid of those extreme cold winters, and then I fell in love with them and was out in blizzards with my camera, and did a series where I also had an exhibition in Bemidji called Beyond Whiteness. And I think I still have fond memories of the opening day of the exhibition, when I photographed kind of everyday situations that I observed, of course, with my still a little bit outside view, and showing people a little bit of their life, but seeing that maybe through new eyes. So, and then there were really, really some touching reactions to photos, which that is for me kind of where I see that when my work is touching people and kind of getting them to react in some way, that's what makes me really happy. And then I want to do a book about where I can put together the portrays I did about people, for instance, in the East Polk Historical Society, the Clearwater County people, together with images that I took of landscapes of the region, and trying to figure out if that works together. So kind of giving an image of the people and the landscape that I love so much and I miss quite a lot now. Yeah, and I had been working on a project, a long-term project they called Memory of the Land, where I don't know, I think I was still in Germany when I was doing something similar here, but not as deep yet. And in Minnesota, it really grew to an idea where I try to find places that have a certain history. I mean, every place, every spot has a history over time. And so the idea is of that each generation leaves its own footprint in landscapes, whether visible or not. And so it was triggered also by lots of stories that I heard from other people or listened, I don't know, on the radio, or saw something or read something about, whether it might be environmental topics or historical topics. So for instance, I try to find that place where there was the last so-called Indian War, or I took photos of that place near Bemidji of an oil spill that happened in '78, and where still nothing in the ground zero area is still nothing growing. But also, I'm not always pointing just on the negative things that happened, that people did in the past, or we are doing now, but also on the good things. For instance, the recovery of the pelican population in Minnesota, which made a really good, successful so far, I think, return. Then the reintroduction, if I can say that, of the bison to the Red Lake nation, so which is so complex as such. And I try to do this series finding really beautiful photos. So where you maybe, or the hope is that you're kind of captured by the landscape, by the beauty of the landscape, but you have to look deeper. And the look deeper, not everything can be shown with a camera. So I accompany each photo with text that actually explain what it is about that place. So people can decide, well, okay, they just enjoy the photos, or they want to learn a little bit more about that place. And yeah, typically I work with my photos. I'm not using a lot of Photoshop altering. So I'm working, my process is a little bit more like journalistic, where you're not removing or adding things in the photo. It's just adjustments in contrast, sharpness, things like that. Bringing out details. But with that Memory of the Land project, I deliberately gave it a kind of a look of the past. So even if the photo is taken now, it gives an idea, or the idea is to give it an idea of that is something in the past. So a little bit of a yellowish, warm tone. Yeah, as a kind of a means also to connect all the photos, that they have kind of the same look, because they were all taken in different light situations and things like that. So, yeah. And here in Germany, that's a whole different story. So because I actually really have to get my feet in terms of photography down on the ground here, I haven't been a photographer when I left. So I kind of have to reinvent myself here again. And, but that's also something I learned. I took actually, and I feel very much encouraged. I took a lot in that regard from the people, for instance, in Clearwater County or in East Polk, because a lot of them, through the stories of their lives that they told me, they had to reinvent themselves several times over, and I found it something very important to take away from me. So, and yeah, as I said, I at the moment I reconnect with the dance theater that I'm working now. Maybe I talked about it in the pre-talk. Yes. So
Yes, she can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm before I left Germany, I was a co-founder of a dance company here. So we were lucky to find a choreographer from Sicily, Italy, who wanted to work with professionals and non-professionals. And I'm not a professional dancer, so a light just went out. Okay. Live. And is it still okay?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Okay. Yeah. And she actually was also in that sense very inspiring for me in exploring the art that you want to do, kind of jumping into that ocean that you want to swim in, and really keep swimming and finding, your shore, so to speak. And yeah, but then I left for Bemidji, and so that was kind of cut off, and I reconnected to them now, and I'm doing actually just a not too interesting office job for them. It's a part-time job. It's almost killing me. It's really challenging, but it's okay. But I also get these wonderful assignments where I can photograph performances. So, and that's, for instance, something I do tomorrow again. There's a dress rehearsal for a piece, and yeah, that is something that fascinates me too, because for me it's other creative landscapes that are created on a stage with light, through light, and try to find moments where the dancers, even if they are kind of translating or interpreting maybe a choreographer's idea, they are still themselves. So they are a persona and a person at the same time, and that fascinates me too, to find those moments in between, those true moments. So it's quite challenging, because stage light is never enough for a photographer, but it's I love it. Yeah.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite assignments or projects over your career?
Yeah. So that was definitely, it was an assignment for NPR. It was about bats, and it was about, unfortunately, it was about what is called the white nose syndrome in bats, which I think spread, unfortunately, from Europe into the east part of the US, and then slowly spreads across the country, and it had reached Minnesota, and I think it was back in 2015, 17, something around that time. And yeah, I was supposed to photograph some scientists who were trying to catch bats and try to ring them and equip them with teeny tiny, how do you call them? These little, not radios, but these little
Transmitters or
transponders.
something?
Yes, yeah. So and all that in the middle of the night, and stumbling through Itasca State Park. So we arrived there in the afternoon and went through different places, but then eventually they put up a tent, and it was so interesting for me. I felt a little bit like doing assignment for National Geographic or something like that. So that was really, really cool. And again, I learned a lot about, I had to read a lot about that, what the white nose syndrome is, what the context is here, and what scientists do, how they work. So to get to anticipate, plan maybe some photos, which then never happened, but I'm prepared, so to speak. Had to bring lots of lights, and I was almost eaten by mosquitoes and ticks. And, yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. I loved it.
Cool.
Yeah.
How can people find you? I know you have a website. Do you want to say what it is, or if there are other ways people can see your stuff?
Yeah. So my website is monikalawrencephotography.com, I think. And then I'm also on Instagram at Monika Lawrence Photo. Yeah, I think. I'm currently not too often on Instagram. Sometimes I need to take a break because I'm getting sucked in too quickly, and then it's a lot of waste of time. I used to get some inspiration out of that, but it's so time consuming. But I still, from time to time, I posted some of my dance photography work, and there will be more in a few more days. So yeah.
Monika, can you give what advice could you give to people watching this, maybe interested in photography or just creativity? What kind of wisdom could you share?
I don't know if wisdom, but I think it's absolutely not important what kind of camera you have, because this is very often a question of beginners. What is the best camera? What are the best lenses? The best camera is the one that you have. And even if that is a phone camera or a little cheap point and shoot camera, it's more what you see and how you see and how much you move around or how lazy you are. If you don't have a good lens, then you move. You zoom in and out with your legs, so to speak. You go close, you go low, you go high. You try. I always used to, even with my adult students, used to take that image of a cat. Cats are exploring, they are curious, they sneak through the grass and look from very low, they jump up high on trees or on walls and get a different perspective. So having this idea, I worked also with kids in Africa with that idea. And they came up with amazing photos. So and they work just with really cheap little point and shoot camera. So it's the photographer, it's not the camera that makes a good photo.
Great.
At least at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think if people are worried about lenses or cameras, this will fall into place the more you work. Just start working, and you will find out what you need. If you're interested in wildlife photography, then sooner or later you will get maybe at the beginning a used tele lens, and then you will inch your way forward to that. If you like street photography, then any normal lens, cheap normal lens is enough. And it's more to meet people and to observe what's happening around you than thinking about settings, camera settings. That comes sooner or later then with the process. Yeah.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people are a lot scared about technical things. I mean, now maybe the other idea is that cameras are now doing everything. I mean, even phone cameras are great, taking great photos, in terms of light and colors and all that, but still it might be boring photos because what you photograph is not really what you've been seeing. So yeah. So it's a learning process still there, and I think even with AI now on the horizon, I think it still needs the actual photographer who is able to translate the ideas what he or she have in an image. it's still work. Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to share with people about what you do or anything?
Well, it's hard to say. It's well, maybe more that I miss Minnesota. It took me years to arrive there, because even if I came from kind of a similar society, a Western society, there's so many differences between German and the US, not just the language. And so it took a while before I got my roots down. But the thing is, then I got my roots down, and I feel still very, very connected to the region, northern Minnesota especially, and the people I met there. Yeah, so that is something that is close to my heart, and I definitely will be back sooner or later for visits and reconnecting with people, and maybe doing more photo projects there. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I hope we can meet.
I'm very thankful. I'm sorry. I'm very thankful that Steph Anderson and other people apparently are so engaged in the background in organizing the exhibitions. So that's even though I'm a bit sad that I cannot see them and talk with people there, I'm very happy that these exhibitions are taking place. So thank you for Steph and all the other people around there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this exhibit, this current exhibit is at the Carnegie Library in Thief River Falls, and it will run until July 10th. And so if you haven't been yet, you could stop in. It's at the Chamber of Commerce, the Carnegie, which is 102 Main Avenue North in Thief River Falls. It's just kind of in the downtown area, and it's free parking in the back. I'm just looking at my notes here. Monday and Friday, it's open 10 to 2. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 to 11. It's free to the public. Please sign our guest book. And then July 10th is actually Thief River Falls Art and Wine Walk. And so that would be a great time to go and see the exhibit, and then you can see other lots of other artwork in other places in downtown Thief River Falls. Yeah, anything else, Kristen?
No, I was just going to say with Art and Wine Walk, that's on the 10th, like you said, it's from 4 till 8, and you can buy pre-tickets, or I think you can buy a ticket that day if you want to do the whole Art and Wine Walk. If you just stop at our gallery, you don't have to have a ticket to come in or anything. But that's a nice opportunity to see a variety of work that night from different artists in the region. So I guess that's all. There's information on our website about the Art and Wine Walk and how to get a ticket, and information about the exhibit as well. So
I won't make it, but I will have some wine.
yeah, we should live stream you in or something so you could see it in action.
Oh yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it might
thanks.
be kind of late.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be hard for you given the time, but thanks again for joining us, Monika, and for sharing your art with us in Thief River and our region. So
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. I'll end this.
Yeah. Okay, bye.